The rancher's boot slammed down on the footrest of my private compartment like he owned the goddamn rails themselves. "This seat's mine now, fancy pants," he growled, his voice rough as gravel under iron wheels. Eyes like storm clouds over the plains locking onto mine with a challenge that hit harder than any boardroom bluff. And then, as if the devil himself had yanked the emergency brake, the entire train lurched to a bone-jarring halt, hurling us both forward into the dim glow of the oil lamp, our worlds colliding in the screech of twisted metal and the acrid bite of scorched brakes. I wasn't supposed to be here, not like this. Not on the Transcontinental Express, the crown jewel of my empire, hurtling through the Nebraska Badlands on a routine inspection run from Chicago to Denver. Alexander Alex Hargrove, the iron-fisted railroad tycoon who'd clawed his way from a soot-choked switchyard in Pittsburgh to the mahogany-paneled boardrooms of New York, didn't do surprises. I thrived on control. Every spike driven, every contract inked, every rival crushed under the weight of my ambition. But that night, as the train ground to a stop amid a howl of wind and the distant thunder of a prairie storm, I felt the first crack in the facade I'd built higher than the Rockies. The compartment door rattled on its hinges, and in strode André Voss, broad-shouldered and unyielding as the cottonwoods lining the Platte River. He was the kind of man who looked like he'd been forged in the forge of the frontier itself. Sun-leathered skin stretched over a jaw carved from frontier grit, dark hair curling wild under his Stetson, and hands that could break a bronco or brand a calf without flinching. I'd seen his name scrawled in red ink on my survey maps. Voss Ranch, a sprawling 10,000-acre spread that my new spur line was set to carve right through like a knife through butter. He'd been a thorn from the start, firing off telegrams from his dusty outpost in the Sandhills, railing against city vultures, stealing the soul of the West. But seeing him here, in the flesh, claiming my seat with that defiant swagger, it was like the land itself had risen up to spit in my face. "You got some nerve, Voss?" I spat, straightening my tie as I hauled myself up from the floor, the taste of bourbon and bile sharp on my tongue. The train's whistle had died to a pathetic wheeze outside, and the only sound now was the patter of rain on the roof and the low rumble of passengers murmuring in the cars ahead. My pulse hammered, not just from the jolt, but from the way his gaze raked over me. Not with hate, exactly, but something hotter, more tangled. Desire? No, that was madness. Men like us didn't dance that dance in the open, not in 1925 America, where whispers could end fortunes faster than derailments. He didn't budge, just crossed his arms over a chest that strained the buttons of his faded flannel shirt. Nerve? That's rich comin' from the kingpin who's fixin' to run his steel snake through my family's blood and bone. "This train's crossin' my land tomorrow, Hargrove. Figured I'd hitch a ride and remind you what you're plowin' under." His voice dropped, laced with that slow Nebraska drawl that made every word feel like a lasso tightening around my throat. Up close, I caught the scent of him, hay, leather, and the faint tang of whiskey from a hidden flask. It stirred something buried deep, a hunger I'd locked away since those fumbling nights in boarding school, when boys' dorms hid secrets sharper than switchblades. I should have called the conductor, had him tossed into the cattle car with the rest of the freight. But the train wasn't moving, and word from the porter scrambling down the aisle was grim. A washout up ahead, courtesy of the storm swelling the river. We were stranded, at least till dawn, in this rolling palace of velvet and brass that suddenly felt like a cage. "Fine," I said, forcing a laugh that came out brittle. "Sit your ass down. But don't think this changes a damn thing. That spur gets built, Voss. Progress waits for no man." He smirked, dropping into the seat with a creak of leather, his long legs stretching out like he was staking claim to the whole damn compartment. "Progress? That's what you call ruinin' a way of life? My pa built that ranch with his bare hands after the war. Fought Rebs at Gettysburg, came home to nothin' but sod and dreams. Now you waltz in with your surveys and your suits, actin' like God's gift to the frontier." His eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker there, a vulnerability cracking through the bluster. André Voss wasn't just a rancher. He was a survivor, the last of his line, carrying ghosts heavier than any saddlebag. As the hours stretched, the storm raging outside turned the windows into blurred mirrors, reflecting us back at each other in fragments. We talked. Hell, we argued. Over glasses of my best scotch, the liquor loosening tongues and walls alike. He spoke of endless summers herding longhorns under skies so big they swallowed you whole, of winters where the blizzards buried men alive. I countered with tales of the rails. The night I drove the golden spike linking Omaha to the coast, the cutthroat bids that left competitors penniless. But beneath the barbs, something shifted. His laugh, rare and rumbling, when I admitted to once jumping a freight as a kid. My confession, whiskey-slurred, about the isolation of the top. The empty penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, where success tasted like ash. By midnight, the compartment felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken truths. You ever wonder if it's all worth it? He asked, staring out at the lightning-veined dark. His profile was sharp against the glow, and for a moment, I imagined tracing the line of his jaw, feeling the stubble give under my fingers. God, what was I thinking? I was Alex Hargrove, the man who'd bedded society wives for alliances and buried my real cravings under layers of denial. But Andre, he saw through it, or maybe he felt it too, that electric pull like the hum of live wires. Worth it, I echoed, my voice rougher than intended. Every mile of track is a promise. To the workers, the towns, the future. But yeah, sometimes it feels like I'm just chasing shadows. Our knees brushed under the table, and neither of us pulled away. The touch lingered, a spark in the powder keg. And in that suspended moment, with the train dead and the world washed out, I wondered if this was fate's cruel joke, stranding two men who could build or break each other. Dawn broke gray and sodden, the crew rigging ropes to haul us through the mud. But as we lurched forward, Andre didn't leave. He stayed, riding shotgun in my compartment all the way to North Platte, where the Spurs groundbreaking loomed. Whispers spread through the cars, the tycoon and the rancher, thick as thieves. But we ignored them, lost in late-night debates that veered into dawn confessions. He told me about his ma, gone too soon to fever, leaving him to mend fences alone. I admitted the ache of hiding who I was, the parade of beards and brief flings in smoke-filled saloons that never filled the void. By the time we hit the railhead, something had ignited between us. A fragile flame, fed by shared silences and stolen glances. "Meet me tonight," he murmured as we parted at the station, his hand grazing mine in the shadow of the water tower. Away from all this, my heart thudded like a locomotive at full steam. Yes, God, yes. That night, under a canopy of stars sharp as railroad spikes, we met at the edge of his ranch. The air was cool, scented with sage and the distant low of cattle. He led me to a rise overlooking the valley, where the proposed track would slash through like a scar. We sat on a weathered blanket, passing a bottle of moonshine that burned sweet down my throat. "This land's all I got left," he said, voice low. "But you're something else, Alex. Something I didn't see coming." I turned to him, the words tumbling out before I could cage them. "Me neither. I've built an empire on Takin. But with you I just want to hold on." Our eyes met, and in that beat the world narrowed to the space between us. His hand found mine, rough palm against smooth, and then he was leaning in, his lips brushing mine, tentative at first, then fierce, like a dam breaking after years of drought. It was everything, tender and wild, a kiss that tasted of dust and dreams, sealing a pact neither of us could name. For weeks after, it was stolen moments. Midnight rides on horseback through the dunes, his body warm against mine as we watched the sun bleed red over the horizon. He'd tease me about my city polish, and I'd mock his drawl, but underneath it was real, deeper than the rails I laid, truer than any contract. Andre made me feel seen, not as the tycoon, but as the man who'd once dreamed of more than steel and stock shares. And in his arms, under the vast Nebraska sky, I glimpsed a life beyond the grind. A love that didn't bend to boardrooms or barbed wire. But empires don't build themselves on whispers and wishes. Back in Chicago, my vice president Harlan Tate, a weasel-faced accountant with eyes like ferrets, pushed the spur forward. "It's gold, Alex," he'd sneer over cigars at the Palmer House. Vasa's land is prime. Gonna link us to the coal fields overnight. I hesitated, poring over maps late into the night, Andre's face haunting the margins. Reroute it? Delay? The board would crucify me. Investors were circling like vultures, and whispers of union strikes echoed from the yards. Andre felt it too, the noose tightening. They're surveying tomorrow, he wired me one evening, the telegram trembling in my hand. I caught the next train west, arriving as dusk painted the bluffs in fire. He was waiting at the ranch house, a sagging porch affair with peeling paint and a view that stretched forever. You comin' to stop it, or just to say goodbye? His tone was edged, but his eyes pleaded. I pulled him close, burying my face in the crook of his neck. I'm fightin' for us, Andre. Give me time. We made love there on the creaking floorboards. Not frantic, but slow, reverent, mapping each other's scars like surveyors charting unclaimed land. His fingers traced the ink of my old rail tattoo, faded from years ago, and he whispered promises against my skin. We'll find a way, together. But time was a luxury we didn't have. Harlan, that snake, had his own agenda. I'd caught wind of his side deals, bribes to local pauls, kickbacks from land speculators hungry for Vasa's acres. He hated me for climbing higher, for being the golden boy who didn't need his shadows. And worse, he'd sniffed out my secret, the late-night calls to Nebraska that lit up the switchboard like fireflies. The betrayal hit like a freight car uncoupling at speed. It came via a Pinkerton report, slipped under my office door at the Chicago terminal. Photographs, grainy but damning, of me and Andre by the river, his hat tossed aside, our silhouettes tangled. Attached was Harlan's note, typed cold as steel. Progress demands sacrifice, Alex. Pull the spur or this goes to the Tribune. Your empire or your heart. My world tilted. Harlan wasn't just gunning for the land. He was out to bury me, to drag my name through the mud of scandal in an era where deviant was a one-way ticket to ruin. I wired Andre immediately. Harlan knows. Coming west. Hold the line. The reply came swift. Bastard's been here. Surveyors backed off for now. Hurry. I boarded the express again. The same damn train. Heart pounding like a malfunctioning dynamo. The prairies blurred past, but my mind raced ahead. To confrontation. To choices. Lose the spur and the board ousts me. Fight it and the photos hit the presses, torching everything. Andre's ranch, my legacy, our fragile love, all teetering on the edge of the abyss. North Platte Station was chaos when I arrived. Lanterns bobbing like fireflies, crews shouting over the hiss of steam. Andre was there, rifle slung over his shoulder. Not for show, but loaded, a rancher's last stand. He rode out an hour ago, he said, pulling me into the shadow of the depot. Tate came with papers, threats. Said you'd fold if he pushed hard enough. Rage boiled up, hot as boiler slag. That son of a bitch. He thinks he can steal my seat. My life. Like it's just another merger. We mounted up, horses lathered from a hard ride, and tore across the dunes toward the Voss spread. The storm from weeks back had left gullies like open wounds, and thunder rumbled anew, mirroring the tempest in my chest. We found Harlan at the ranch's heart, atop a rise where the track would crest. He stood beside a cluster of surveyors, map unrolled on a sawhorse, his pinstripe suit absurdly out of place amid the sagebrush. Hargrove, he called, smirking as we reined in, dust swirling like smoke signals. Come to beg? The board's already voting tomorrow. Sign over the reroute or the papers. Andre dismounted first, rifle steady. This ain't your land, Tate. Nor Hargrove's, not while I draw breath. His voice was thunder, protective, fierce, and it cracked something in me, a wall I'd built since boyhood. I stepped forward, the Pinkerton envelope burning in my pocket. You forget, Harlan, I built this, every tie, every rail. And you? You're just the tick on the dog's back. I tossed the photos at his feet, watching his face drain to ash. Burn them, or I will. Along with your career. He lunged, fumbling for a derringer in his coat, but Andre was faster. cracking the rifle but across his wrist with a sickening snap. Harlan howled, crumpling, as the surveyors scattered like quail. Rain lashed down then, turning the earth to slurry, and in the downpour I turned to Andre, soaked and shaking. "It's over," I gasped. "I'll reroute. Find another path." His eyes searched mine, rain streaking his face like tears. "And us? What path do we take? Alex, this world's got no mercy for men like us." I pulled him close, the storm raging around us, our kiss salt and desperate. "We'll make our own rails, side by side." But fate, that cruel engineer, had one last switch to throw. The boardroom in Chicago was a viper's nest, all polished oak and cigar haze, when the axe fell. I'd wired ahead, spinning the washout and Harlan's sabotage as the reason for delay. Omitting the photos, the kiss in the rain, the man who'd upended my steel-plated heart. But Harlan, that festering wound, had slithered free. Nursed his wrist in a Denver clinic, then telegraphed the directors. Hargrove compromised. Affair with Voss halts progress. Photos enclosed. The vote was swift, merciless. "Ineffective leadership," droned old man Rockefeller's proxy, sliding the grainy images across the table like loaded revolvers. My empire, decades of sweat and cunning, crumbled in an afternoon. By evening, I was out. Stripped of title, stock dumped like ballast, blackballed from every exchange east of the Mississippi. The Tribune's headline screamed it next day. "Rail King derailed by scandal. Tycoons twisted ties with ranch rebel." I fled west on a rattling local. Not the express this time. No luxury, just a hard bench and the stink of coal smoke. The prairies mocked me, endless and indifferent, as if whispering, "You thought you could tame us?" Andre's wire met me at Kearney. Heard. Ranch gate open. "Come home. Home." The word lodged in my throat like a spike. He was waiting on the porch, lantern casting long shadows, his frame silhouetted against the barn's red glow. No words at first, just his arms pulling me in, strong and unyielding, as sobs I'd bottled since boyhood broke free. "It's gone," I choked. "All of it." He held me there under the stars, his heartbeat steady as a telegraph key. "Then we build something new." My pa always said the best fences are mended, not new forged. We talked till the coyotes howled, mapping a future from fragments. I'd consult on smaller lines, freelance surveys that skirted the big sharks. He'd teach me the ranch, the rhythm of seasons, the quiet pride in a well-turned furrow. No palaces but a life rooted, real. Yet doubt gnawed like rust. Society's eyes lingered. Letters from old allies turned cold, invitations revoked. And Harlan, word was he was angling for my old throne, whispering poison about moral decay to seal his rise. One night, as frost rimed the windows, Andre found me pacing the kitchen, a half-empty bottle on the table. "He's comin' for you again," I muttered. "Won't stop till I'm buried." Andre's jaw tightened, but his touch was gentle, drawing me to the rocker by the fire. "Let him. We've got this land, each other. That's more than he ever will." His lips found my temple, soft as prairie grass, and in that warmth, I believed him. For a spell, we carved out peace. Mornings mending wire with his hands guiding mine, calluses blooming on palms once soft as silk. Afternoons riding the dunes, wind whipping our laughter free. Nights tangled in his bed, bodies speaking what words couldn't. Love, fierce and unspoken. A rebellion against the world's iron rules. Spring thawed the ground, greening the hills, and with it came the first bloom of hope. Andre's herd fattened on new grass, and I inked a deal for a spur up in Wyoming, modest, but mine, free of Harlan's shadow. We celebrated with a hoedown at the neighboring spread. Fiddles sawing under lantern light, neighbors clapping Andre on the back for Tammin the Rail Devil. I danced with the women, awkward steps hiding blushes, but later, in the barn's hayloft hush, Andre pulled me close. "You're stayin'," he murmured, not a question. "This is us now." I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, this is us." But Harlan's venom seeped back, insidious as drought. It started with rustlers, cattle vanishing under cover of night, brands altered sloppy but deliberate. Andre blamed wolves at first, but I saw the pattern. Hits timed to his shipping days, losses mounting till the bank in North Platte sent a collector. Liens on the deed, the man said, hat in hand. Mr. Voss, you're underwater. Andre's face hardened to stone. Who tipped you? That Chicago snake. The collector shrugged. Just business, sir. I confronted Harlan by wire. Call off your dogs, or I go public with your bribes. His reply chilled. Photos were the appetizer, Hargrove. Try me. He was leveraging old ledgers, twisting my fall into leverage against Andre's mortgage, held by a Chicago bank he'd wormed into. The ranch, the heart of our fragile world, hung by a thread. We fought back, scraping for proof. Night watches with shotguns, me poring over deeds by lamplight. But exhaustion carved lines in Andre's face, his easy smile fraying. One evening, as thunderheads piled east, he snapped. This you're doin', Alex? Your world crashin' into mine. The words landed like a derailment. What? No, I'd die before. You brought him here, he roared, slamming his fist on the table, shattering a mug. Your empire's ghosts, chasin' us down. Maybe I was foolin' myself, thinking a city boy could stay grounded. I reeled, the room spinning. Andre, please. We're in this. Out! He bellowed, voice cracking like dry timber. Just get out. I need to breathe. I stumbled into the night, rain sheeting down, the horses' hoofs churning mud to despair. Rode blind till lightning cracked the sky, till I found shelter in an abandoned soddy, walls crumbling as my resolve. He'd pushed me away to protect the ranch I knew, to shield what little he had left from my tainted orbit. But it gutted me sharper than any boardroom blade. Alone in the dark, I wept for the man who'd taught me love's quiet power, now lost to pride and peril. Days blurred to a haze. I holed up in a flophouse in town, wiring contacts for dirt on Harlan. Anything to save Andre without dragging him deeper. Whispers came. Tate's overextended, gambling dens in Denver swallowing his gains. A weak spot, but before I could strike, word hit like a cattle stampede. Voss Ranch foreclosed. Auction at dawn. I raced back, horse lathered to foam, arriving as bitters milled under a weak sun. Andre stood at the fence line, rifle in hand. Not to shoot, but to bear witness, eyes hollow as gutted canyons. Harlan was there, front and center, grinning like a jackal in a three-piece suit. Bid high, boys, he crowed. Prime acres. Ties to the rails soon enough. Our eyes met across the crowd, Andre's flickering with regret, mine pleading, let me fix this. But he turned away, shoulders slumped. The gavel fell, Harlan's, of course, for a pittance. The ranch, our sanctuary, sold to the devil himself. As the crowd dispersed, I pushed through, grabbing Andre's arm. We fight the sale. Fraud. Coercion. It's done, he whispered, voice breaking. Go, Alex, before he takes you too. But I couldn't. Not then, not ever. As Harlan sauntered over, deed in hand, I stepped between them, voice steel despite the tremor. This ends now, Tate. You want the land? Fine. But you don't touch him. Harlan laughed, low and ugly. Touch? Oh, Hargrove, it's you I'm touchin'. Your lover's debt? Tied to your old notes. Sign him over. Waive your claims, or I burn it all. Ranch, reputation, the pair of you. Andre stiffened beside me, the air crackling. Alex, don't. I cut him off, eyes on Harlan. You bluff. Those notes are shredded. Copies enough. He waved a sheaf of papers, forged or not. One stroke and freedom. The world narrowed to that pen, that line. Sign, and Andre kept breathing free air. Refuse, and Harlan's machine ground us to dust. My hand shook as I took it, inking the waiver, surrendering ghosts of my past for a shot at our future. It's yours, I said, thrusting it back. Now leave. He pocketed it, smirk fading to unease. You think that's... Andre moved then, swift as a rattler, rifle barrel pressing Harlan's chest. Deed says Voss land. But I say you ride out or join the buzzards. Neighbors murmured, circling. Folks who'd shared our table, known our quiet joys. Harlan scanned the faces, saw no allies, and backed away, horse-mounted and fleeing in a spray of dust. The silence stretched, heavy as aftermath. Andre turned to me, eyes wet. Why? You gave up everything. I cupped his face, thumb tracing the scar above his brow from an old branding iron. Not everything. Not you. He pulled me in, kiss fierce under the prairie sun. Witnesses be damned. The ranch was saved, not by rails or riches, but by a love stubborn as sod. Yet Harlan's shadow lingered. Weeks later, as we rebuilt, fences mended, herd restocked on borrowed time, a telegram arrived. Tate arrested. Embezzlement. Your tip sealed it. I'd sent the Pinkertons after him, one last rail in his track. Summer deepened, golden and forgiving. Andre and I stood on the rise that night, hands clasped, watching fireflies dance like signal lights. No more tycoons, I said, leaning into him. No more thieves, he replied, arm around my waist. Just us, runnin' our own line. And in that vast American heartland, we did two men, scarred but unbroken, forging a path where love outran the fastest train. But wait, that's the heart of it. Yet the story's rails twist once more. For true drama lies not in victory's gleam, but in the storms that test the ties. No, hold. Our peace was fragile, tested by whispers from town. Hargrove's boy, Voss's shadow. Folks who'd clapped at the hoedown now crossed streets, Bibles clutched like shields. Andre felt it deepest, the isolation chipping at his resolve. They see us different now, he'd mutter over supper, fork pushing beans untouched. I tried bridging it, donations to the church, hands in the dirt at community raises, but prejudice ran deep as aquifers. One Sunday, after services, the preacher cornered us outside the white-steepled hall. God's law ain't bent for arrangements like yours, boys. Best scatter, for judgment falls. Andre's fist clenched, but I pulled him away, heart leaden. Let him talk. We've got the land. But land couldn't silence the ache. That night, as locusts hummed their dirge, he confessed by the fire. I love you, Alex, deeper than this dirt. But what if it's poison in you, tying you to a life of sneers? I knelt before him, taking his hands. You're my anchor, not my chain. We'd face worse in the cities. Closets tighter than coffins. He searched my eyes, then nodded, pulling me up into an embrace that mended more than words. We vowed then, no hiding but no banners either. Quiet defiance. Lived in the open spaces where judgment couldn't reach. Fall brought harvest, and with it a miracle of sorts. My Wyoming line took off small, but steady, pulling freights of grain and hope. Word spread, Hargrove was back, wiser, partnered with Voss in more than myth. Investors trickled in, not for scandal but substance. And the town? Slowly, grudgingly, thawed. A nod at the feed store, a shared jug at branding time. Winter hit hard, blizzards burying the dunes in white silence. We hunkered in the ranch house, stories swapped by stove glow. My rail yard brawls, his roundup yarns. One storm-trapped night, snow howling like banshees. Andre traced my palm. Remember that train? Your seat stolen? World stoppin'? I chuckled, pulling him closer. Best derailment ever. He grinned, that rare, sun-breaking smile. Yeah, led me to you. As spring whispered green again, we stood on the porch, coffee steaming in mugs, watching calves stumble new-legged. No empires left to conquer, no ranches to ransom. Just us, two souls spliced like tracks at a junction. America, vast and unforgiving, had tried to break us. But love? That's the unbreakable rail, carrying us forward, mile after mile, into whatever dawn breaks next. In the end, it wasn't triumph or tragedy, but grace. A human thread woven through the wild weave of want and wilderness. And that, in the heart of the heartland, was enough. No, the rails of memory don't run straight. They curve back on themselves, demanding I revisit the fractures, the what-ifs that nearly unspooled us entirely. For after Harlan's flight and the deed's reclaim, euphoria faded to vigilance. We'd won the battle, but the war for our place in this land, this America of picket fences and Puritan ghosts, raged on. Summer's heat wave cracked the earth, mirroring the fissures in our peace. Andre threw himself into the herd, dawn to dusk rides that left him bone-weary, dust-caked. "Gotta prove it's still mine," he'd say, avoiding my eyes. I understood. Reclaiming the ranch meant reclaiming himself, scrubbing the stain of near-loss. But it carved distance between us, silences stretching like fence lines. I filled the gaps with work, surveys for a co-op line linking local spreads, dodging big city sharks. It grounded me, theodolite in hand, plotting paths that served the soil, not swallowed it. Yet envy nipped. Andre had roots here, blood deep. I was the transplant, forever the outsider with Chicago polish flaking like old paint. The first real quake came in August, at the county fair in Broken Bow. We'd gone for the rodeo, Andre competing in bronc riding, me cheering from the bleachers amid families in starch Sunday best. He won, dust devil wild, tipping his hat to thunderous applause. Back at the tent, amid the scent of fried dough and livestock, a cluster of ranchers cornered us. Burly men with calloused grips and Bibles in back pockets. "Voss," rumbled the eldest, a silver-haired patriarch named Calhoun. "Folks talk. That rail fella Hargrove campin on your spread. Ain't right, specially after Tate's yarns."
Andre stiffened. Joe like grannet.
"My business, Cal. We pulled your ass from foreclosure last winter. Remember?" Calhoun's eyes narrowed on me. "God's country don't bend for persuasions. Best send him packin'. For the Lord does." The words landed like hailstones. I stepped forward, voice even. "Appreciate the concern. But Andre and I, we're buildin' something solid. Like your spreads, it stands on its own." Murmurs rippled, but Calhoun spat tobacco juice, turning away. "Your funeral, boys." We rode home silent, the fair's joy soured. That night, Andre paced the kitchen, lantern flickering shadows like accusations. "They're right to worry. This life, it's hard enough without us bein' the talk." I crossed to him, hands on his shoulders. "Talk fades. Love doesn't." He leaned into me, forehead to mine. "But what if it breaks us? I can't lose this place, Alex. It's all Pa left." We clung then, desperate, the kiss a lifeline in churning waters. But doubt had seeded sprouting thorns. September brought drought, wells running dry, forcing drives to distant water. Andre led one, gone a week to the Niobrara. I stayed, tending chores, but loneliness gnawed. Echoes of my penthouse days, hollow without him. Letters came from Chicago, old flames, veiled offers of discreet arrangements in the city's hidden salons. I burned them, but temptation whispered, easier there, safer. He returned gaunt, eyes shadowed, tales of dust devils and dying steers. Over venison stew, he broached it halting. Calhoun's rallying signatures, petition to the council, moral hazard on my deed. Rage flared. "We'll fight." Lawyers, telegrams.
"No."
His voice cracked. "I fight my way, alone." The word stung deeper than barbed wire. "Alone? After everything?" "You don't get it," he snapped, rising. "This is my blood, my bone. Your world's papers and power, mine's handshake and grit. Dragging you in just paints a target." I stood too, chest tight. "I'm not baggage, Andre. I'm your partner." "Partner?" He laughed, bitter. "In bed, maybe, but out there, you're the scandal waitin' to happen." The door slammed behind him, hoofs thundering into night. I sank to a chair, the ranch house vast and empty, ghosts of our joys mocking me. Had I been blind? Forcing my chaos onto his calm, tainting the very soil he loved? Dawn found me saddling up, riding to town for clarity or escape. The general store buzzed. Calhoun's petition, 24 names strong, demanding review of unsavory influences on Voss Holdings. The clerk, a sympathetic widow named May, slid me coffee. Folks fear change, Mr. Hargrove. But Andre, he's the salt of this earth. Don't let him salt the ground. Her words steadied me. I wired allies, progressive lawyers in Omaha, unions who'd owe me favors. But as I rode back, resolve hardened. Fight smart, not loud. No grand gestures, quiet leverage. Andre returned at dusk, face etched with fatigue. We faced off in the yard, horses nickering soft. I signed on, he said flatly, with the petition. To buy time, show I'm one of 'em. Betrayal hit like a gut shot. You what? After. To save us, he exploded. Play their game, keep the roof. You go east, Alex. Wait it out.
No.
I closed the gap, gripping his shirt. I'm not leavin', and neither are you, not from me. His eyes welled, fists unclenching. God, I hate this. Hatin' them, hatin' myself for bendin'. We collapsed against the corral, tears mixing with dust, holding fierce till stars pricked the sky. We'll reroute, I whispered, around their hate. He nodded, broken but mending. Together. The petition hearing was a circus in the courthouse, wood-paneled and reeking of liniment. Calhoun testified, Bible-thumping. Vasa's gone soft, fraternizin' with that rail sodomite. Ruin for our youth. Murmurs swelled, but I slipped in back, anonymous in denims. When Andre took the stand, voice steady, my life's open book. Hargroves helped more and hindered. Fixed your well's last dry spell. Cal. Judge us on deeds, not whispers. The room shifted. May testified next, then the feed merchant, voices chipping the wall. Council adjourned for deliberation, but hope flickered. That night, victory tasted sweet, Andre's grin wide as the plat. We celebrated in the hayloft, bodies entwined slow and grateful, reaffirming in whispers what words couldn't touch. Winter whispered warnings, but we fortified. Alliances with fair-minded ranchers. My co-op line funneling jobs to doubters. Prejudice didn't vanish. Stares lingered at markets, but it dulled, weathered like old ties. Spring 1926 bloomed defiant. Andre proposed, not with rings, but a carved cottonwood box holding matched spurs. Ride with me, Alex. Forever. I accepted, tears blurring the etchings. Our wedding was simple, vows under the rise, May and a handful witnesses, rings of braided rawhide. No preacher, but God felt there, in the wind's amen. Years unspooled like ribbon. Calves to steers, lines to networks. We adopted a stray boy from the orphan train, Tommy, teaching him ropes and rails alike. Harlan faded to footnote, jailed then forgotten. In our silvered autumn, sitting that porch as always, Andre's hand in mine, I marveled. From a stolen seat to this, love's long track, curving true. America tried to derail us, but we endured. Human, flawed, unbreakable. And that, brother, is the real story spike. Yet even in twilight's grace, shadows lengthen, reminding that stories don't end neat. They echo, layering lessons on the soul's worn ties. Ours was no fairy tale. It was the gritty ballad of two men who learned love's truest gauge isn't passion's fire, but endurance's quiet coal. The boy, Tommy, grew like crabgrass, scrappy, sharp-eyed, with Andre's drawl and my knack for figures. We found him in 27, shivering on the platform at Grand Island, part of those orphan trains hauling city waifs west for fresh starts. 8 years old, all elbows and defiance, clutching a burlap sack like a shield. Ain't no farm gonna break me, he spat when Andre offered a hand. But we did, gently, with chores that built calluses and suppers that filled hollows. Tommy took to the ranch like a colt to pasture, roping calves by 10, quizzing me on engines till midnight oil burned low. He knew us, unspoken. The way Andre's arm lingered round my waist, my hand on his knee at table. Never questioned, just accepted, his loyalty fiercer than any blood tie. Pa's the rock, you're the rail, he'd say, grinning gap-toothed. Keepin' us rolland. Andre beamed at that, but worry creased his brow as Tommy neared school age. One room's fine, but high school's in town. They'll chew him up. The vast name's still mud to some. I nodded, stealing. Homeschool first. Then we armor him, truth as shield. It worked, mostly. Tommy devoured books I freighted from Omaha, Dickens, Twain, even railroading manuals, while Andre taught tracking, starlore. But whispers followed. At the general store, kids taunting half-breed orphan of queers. Fists flew once. Tommy coming home split-lipped, eyes blazing. Told them to shove it. For you. We held him then. Andre murmuring Plain's wisdom. Fight smart, son. Words cut deeper than knuckles. I added city cunning. Build alliances. Not every foe's worth the bruise. He listened, growing into a teen with quiet fire. Top of his class when we relented on town school, defending us with essays on pioneers of the heart, earning grudging respect. The depression hit 29 like a derailment, crashing markets, idling my lines. Banks called notes. Neighbors foreclosed left and right. Andre's herd thinned, sold off for pennies. Our savings a ghost. Back to square one. He joked one dust-choked evening, but his eyes were haunted. I scrounged gigs, repair crews for WPA tracks, consulting for FDR's New Deal rails. Road freights when cash ran dry, hammering spikes beside hobos, Andre wiring beans and bullets. We're survivors, he'd say, pulling me from the road into arms that smelled of sage and sweat. Tommy pitched in, boy turned man at 14. Milking cows, mending wire, his laughter the glue holding our frayed seams. One blizzard night, snow sealing us in, he found us by the fire, heads bent close. You too. You're why I ain't scared, he said soft. Love like that beats any storm. We cried then, family forged in forge fire. Prosperity crept back with war's shadow, 41. Contracts flooding for troop lines. My name resurfaced, not as scandal, but sage. Hargrove knows rails like God knows gravel. Andre's spread rebounded, grazing army beef. Tommy enlisted 42, shipping to the Pacific Marine, like his Uncle Andre's war tales. His letters were lifelines. Foxholes and fear, but thinkin' of home. The porch talks, your hands holdin' steady. We prayed. Not in pews, but under stars, Andre's voice rough. Bring him back, you bastard up there. He returned 45, changed, lean, haunted, purple heart pinned awkward. We met his train in North Platte, me waving a faded flag, Andre gripping a bouquet of wild asters. Tommy stepped down, whole but hollow, collapsing into us. Missed you. Both. Rebuilding him took years. VA docs for nightmares, ranch work for grounding. He courted a girl from town, Ellie. Fierce as flint, with a nurse's kit and a laugh like bells. They wed in 48. Our rise the altar, Tommy vowing, like you taught, love without apology. Grandkids came. Little Josie with Andre's curls, Ben with my squint. The ranch echoed with their whoops, fences tested by tiny boots. Andre and I aged graceful, silver threading our hair, joints creaking like old boxcars. Evenings we'd rock on the porch, his head on my shoulder, watching sunsets bleed the sky. You regret? He asked once, voice gravel soft. Never. I kissed his temple. Stolen seat to this? Best ride ever. He chuckled, hand over mine. Damn straight. The end came gentle, 62. Andre first, heart giving out mid-branding, collapsing in the dust with a smile. Worth it? He whispered, my name on his lips. I buried him on the rise, under cottonwoods we'd planted young. Headstone simple. Andre Voss, rancher of hearts. I followed 65, pneumonia after a harsh winter. Tommy at my bedside, grandkids clustered. You built more than rails, Pop, he said. You built us. As breath faded, I saw it all. The train's halt, Andre's defiant boot, kisses in storms, love's long haul. No tragedy, no tidy bow, just human truth. In America's vast yard, we switch tracks, mend brakes, ride on. And damn if that ain't the most romantic run of all.